but like my oil will not go hard in the fridge. It stays liquid in the fridge. But olive oil may go hard in the fridge because the fatty acids in olive oil are less unsaturated. So they tend to be more in the direction of harder than the essential fatty acids are.
Okay, so then when I think of oils that are solid at room temperature, I think of coconut oil or other oils that have a high level of saturated fat,
Yeah.
which has been said to be very very bad for you. So
butter, yeah, butter, tallow.
right, animal
Yeah.
Oils that come out of animals. So
And
my
tropical
understanding
fats.
from what you're saying is that the oil, so those aren't oils, so the saturated fat is fat, not same as these oils which are high in the omega-3, omega-6s
Correct.
and omega-9s, or you're saying omega-9s is more closer to the saturated fat?
Well, omega-9 is in the middle.
Okay.
Like, and it has to do with double bonds. If there are no double bonds, it's saturated. That makes it harder. If it's got one double bond like omega-9s do, that makes it a little bit more liquid. If it's got two like omega-6s do, or three like omega-3s do, well, then you have to put it to a very, like -17 is where omega-3s become hard in the cold. Right?
Okay.
So there's literally, it's based on, it's a gradation based on how many double bonds there are. The double bonds make them more liquid.
Double bonds of hydrogen, is that
Double
what
bonds, there are two carbons that
Okay.
if they were saturated, they would have two hydrogens on each carbon. But if they're unsaturated, a hydrogen is removed from each of the carbons between which the double bond is. So the hydrogen's being taken out. It's in fact they're called dehydrogenase enzymes. So they take the hydrogens off, and then the molecule bends. And when the molecule bends, it doesn't stack or crystallize easily, which is why they're like more liquid, because the shapes don't fit together to crystallize so well.
And so earlier you were talking about the damage, and I don't think I asked this question, so forgive me if I did. What is the actual damage to that, one with 19 zeros behind it, molecules in a teaspoon of oil?
Yeah. It's actually a 6 followed by 19 zeros.
Oh, it's a 6. Well, okay.
60 quintillion. Yeah. Yeah. So the question is,
so when you say, is it oxidized? Like when you say damage,
yeah.
what is it actually, what do you actually mean by the damaged molecules?
There are all kinds of different kinds of damage done to the oils when they're processed. And it goes like fragmented molecules. So you're breaking some of the chains. Fragmented molecules, double bond shifts, they move into different places. That changes the properties. Trans fatty acid, twisted molecules. So you get trans fatty acids from that. You get cyclized molecules. You get cross-linked molecules between triglycerides. So from one fat molecule to another, or within triglycerides from one fatty acid chain in a molecule and another. And those changes, we don't have enzymes to break them down. Okay, then you can get polymerized, dimerized, trimerized, polymerized molecules. So there's all kinds of different kinds of changes. And when we measure trans fatty acids, we measure oxidized, of course, is another one. So we measure oxidized molecules, but all of these other molecules that happen, nobody even measures them. So when you get an oil, it doesn't say how many damaged molecules or what kind of damaged molecules are in that oil. So it's kind of like it's a thing is we're doing something to ourselves that we think maybe is not so bad. It's only 1% damaged, but we're actually from your guess, we're underestimating by 60 quadrillion times how much damage we're doing to ourselves. And that's something to think about, right? It's just oil, and then you do that for 30 years. And then you get cancer. And then you say, I don't know why I got cancer. I always ate good. No, you didn't know. You didn't know how much damage you're getting from oils. And if you guessed about it, you would have guessed it at least 1 billion times too low, the actual damage that you're getting. And out of that comes my quote is that more health problems come from damaged oils than any other part of nutrition, and more health benefits come from getting our oils right, made with health in mind and properly balanced, than any other part of nutrition.
So is there a diet that provides enough oil without actually having to, from food? Is that possible?
Well, it might be possible for some people. It wasn't possible for me. That's why I say eat all the whole foods you want, but if your skin is still dry, and especially in winter, you'll notice it, or in dry climate, you'll notice it. If your skin is still dry, then you still need more oil. And then use the oil to augment that, to get your health to optimum rather than adequate. If you want to cheat death for a few years longer, you might have to high grade some of the principles of health to get that done.
So with regard to flax seeds, what I tend to see on the shelf is flax meal.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, if I'm understanding correctly, is by definition, flax meal has the oil pressed out of it, so you're losing omega-3s and omega-6s.
No, I don't know that. You can get flax meal that has not been pressed, but you can also get flax meal that has been pressed. So it depends on what you're getting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there a nutritional profile? Like if we look on the back and it says a certain amount of, fat on there, is there a way of knowing whether or not we have the version or not?
Yeah, the total fat in flaxseed is around 35%. And if in the flax meal, when the oil's been pressed out, it's more like 10%. So that would be a way to tell. The other thing, though, that you want to pay attention to is when the flax oil is broken down into meal, you now have exposure to light, to oxygen, that will then make the oil go rancid, or will create free radicals, or will create these broken molecules. And so it should be packaged in dark, and it should be packaged in a way that you don't get oxygen into the flax, because it'll go rancid, and you'll smell it. It'll start smelling like fish oil, because fish oil is even more sensitive than flax oil and goes rancid very, very, very quickly.
So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dr. Michael Greger. He has an organization called nutritionfacts.org.
Yes, I read him all the time. Yeah.
Okay. So he has a video specifically on flax meal, and in the video he said that was the expectation. And specifically, this is not true with chia seeds, but he said it is true with flax seeds, where they thought that it would go rancid. They thought it would go bad because you'll get ground flax, you can buy it all over the place. And they found that it didn't have that degradation. Have you looked into that at all?
It doesn't make sense to me. When you expose an omega-3 molecule to air and light, damage will take place. What I say to people is get the flax seeds, they're cheaper, and flip them in your blender when you make a shake or a smoothie, and then get them out of your shake or your smoothie. So what you do is you're breaking the seeds up just before you take it, rather than having these seeds sitting on a shelf for maybe a month or 2 months or 6 months or however long they are. It's always fresh is always the big word.
All right. So it sounds like coffee grinder would work well for that.
Coffee grinder could work, although the oils will glue up the coffee grinder. Depends on what kind of a grinder you have.
Is there a specific grinder that you'd recommend?
Well, yeah, blender. I think the blender is the easiest way to do it.
Okay.
When you put it in a dry blender, then you blend, then you're mixing it up and you're heating it up. It's getting heated up by the process. Then you're getting, when you heat up the seeds, then oxygen and light react faster. So you want to not do that as much as possible.
So wait, a dry blender as opposed to what?
as opposed to a wet blender when you do it in a smoothie or shake.
Okay. So do it in a smoothie or shake with the liquids in it, and
Yeah,
then that'll keep it cooler
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, because it,
the oxygen because it'll be in the liquid.
right, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate that information. So, can you explain? All right, so you mentioned like frying at one point,
Yeah.
and so my understanding is one of the worst things you can do to food. Can you?
Frying is the single stupidest thing we've ever invented to do to food if health is what we want. And
Okay.
I tell people, listen, you have a frying pan, everybody has a frying pan, go get it out, turn it upside down, hit yourself up the side of the head with it, and then throw it out. And go back to cooking in water or eating raw if you can. Because if you look at nature's mandate was fresh, whole, raw, organic, local, seasonal, except some things you keep over winter. And for humans, probably mostly plant-based, right? And every creature eats like that except for us. Fresh, whole, raw, organic. So
Yeah,
that's
okay.
that's the standard. And then when you cook in water, you're already killing the enzymes, you're destroying the enzymes, you're killing the probiotics, you damage some of the more sensitive nutrients in it. And if you fry it, you burn the food and you make it toxic. Whether it's carbs or fats or proteins you fry, all three of them independent of each other increase inflammation and increase the risk of cancer.
That's with the frying in oil,
That's
right?
what we're doing with when we fry.
Sure. And for people who, I think probably one of the most popular things is French fries, right? And you can't really, to my knowledge, eat potatoes raw. You can obviously, boil them. How would you recommend savoring our French fries, if you will?
Well, I think you should send the French fries back to France. Of course, they weren't invented in France either.
Not surprised, not surprised.
So, so anyway, well, you can eat potatoes raw. I have done it. They have a funny taste, but so do a lot of foods. It's a lot of our tastes are acquired. Or you can cook them. I'm not a big fan of potatoes. I'm not a big fan of starches. I'm more seed and nuts and oil based because I'm very sensitive to blood sugar. And I used to get, it's very easy to put on weight on starches for me. I do eat some fruit, but I'm my favorite food is green vegetables and seeds and nuts.
Okay. And now what about for those people who do want to eat hot food, what
Yeah.
about like baking a potato or putting one in an air fryer
Well,
to
if you on the outside, yeah. So on the outside, if you burn it, there's toxicity created. Same with baking, right? The crust is brown. The inside is steamed because it's wet, but the
Okay.
outside dries out and then overheats and burns. So whenever you do something that changes the color of the food, then you're creating toxicity. If you don't want any toxicity, then you got to boil it in water
Okay.
or have it or prepare it in a way where it stays wet and doesn't dry out.
And what about steaming? So you mentioned like the boiling would kill the enzymes and all that type of stuff,
Yeah.
or kill the probiotics. Same thing with steaming. It's the temperature?
It depends on how long you steam it. You could steam it so just the outside is cooked. That will kill the probiotics, but you might still have some of the enzymes in the food that haven't been killed. Now, why is that important? Because if you were to eat in nature, you're running around naked in nature eating raw food, you would get probiotics on the food. They would start in your mouth, they would work your way through your entire digestive system, and that's a good thing. And the enzymes in the raw food, they'll do on average 60% of the digestion of the food for you if you chew your food properly. And it's from 10% to 90%. So those enzymes take a load off your digestive system, and that in turn takes a load off your immune system. And that frees the immune system to go after cancer cells and debris and dead cells and all of that. So you're doing your immune system a huge favor by either eating your foods raw, or if you cook them, replacing the enzymes that you destroyed by cooking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have someone asking a question about your product. Does your product specifically exclude the inflammatory, and I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, arachidonic and
Arachidonic acid.
linoleic fatty acids?
No, okay. So this is a question that comes from misunderstanding omega-6s and seed oils. Linoleic acid is the omega-6 essential fatty acid. And in the body, the omega-6 is converted into two series of hormone-like regulating substances. One is pro-inflammatory, and that's important for healing. And the other one is anti-inflammatory. The omega-3 is turned into a third set of, they're called eicosanoids or prostaglandins, prostacyclins, thromboxanes, and leukotrienes. The omega-3 is turned into a third set of eicosanoids, and those are anti-inflammatory. You need the inflammatory eicosanoids just like you need the anti-inflammatory ones. So the idea that omega-6 gives you inflammation and hurts you, that's a misunderstanding of the system. There's inflammation for healing, and you need that, and that comes from omega-6s. And there's inflammation that's chronic. That comes from damage done to the oils by the processing and by the frying that we use those oils for. Okay, so again, the people who've only done half their homework because they didn't look into the back of why are these causing us problems. The omega-6s are causing us problems. So they give you a whole story that misleads everybody. And then when you follow that story, that will make you sick. So it's kind of like my pet peeve in my field is that people, free speech. Free speech, you get to say what you want. That's the upside. You know what the downside is? You get to say what you want. It doesn't have to be true.
Right.
And that's the problem. Free speech is a double-edged sword. So the answer to that question is yes, there's omega-6 in it. You need that, but the omega-6 needs to not be damaged because then it'll do the job that it's supposed to do in nature.
And one of the classic things that the same person is raising this point, which I was thinking about earlier, and I hit on it a little bit, which is olives versus olive oil, right? Is it, is getting the olive oil or the olives, is eating the olives better than eating the olive oil? Or are you saying that, because you're not getting enough oil in general, maybe eat the olive oil if it wasn't damaged?
No, olive oil is better food